Hello students, so we are back again with this chapter. I am Samapti Sra Mahapatra, the zoology teacher in Sri Chaitanya Institute. Students, in the previous class, we have already discussed some of the glands of the chapter Chemical Control and Integration. Today we are going to start with the new gland, which is a very important. That gland is, students, thyroid gland. Let us first look at some of the important characteristics related with the structure, location and origin of the thyroid gland. So when I talk about the origin of the thyroid gland is endodermal. Hypothalamus being ectodermal, pituitary being ectodermal, pineal being ectodermal. But this gland has originated from the endodermal layer, so it's endodermal in origin. Looking at the location of the thyroid gland, students, we must be familiar that this gland is present over the trachea. Also have made a diagram which I am going to discuss later. Students, this is the trachea, and on the ventral side of the trachea, this is our ventral part, this is our ventral part, this is our dorsal part. So over your trachea, on the ventral side of your trachea, there is a H-shaped gland or the butterfly shaped gland, the open wing butterfly shape, as you can see here. This gland having the H shape or butterfly shape ventrally located over the trachea is thyroid gland. We would also be looking at the gland, students, which is located behind the thyroid gland, that is parathyroid gland. We are going to discuss this later. Students, this is the largest endocrine gland. Now, the largest gland, if you are asked, that is definitely liver. But the largest endocrine gland, if asked, that is, students, the thyroid gland. Shape we have already covered. Now, what I have written that, students, this is the only gland. This is the only gland which is responsible or which can store its own hormone. No other gland can store its own hormone. This is the only gland which can store its own hormone. How it is storing, how it is forming, that we are going to see in the later discussion. Here I have written that the thyroid gland, which is present ventrally over your trachea, is having two lobes, students. It is having two lobes and it is connected with a connective tissue that is called as isthmus. The connective tissue which connects both the lobes of thyroid gland is called as isthmus. Let us look at how the isthmus and how the both lobes look. Focus on this diagram. When I made this diagram, this has this one lobe and this is the other lobe of the thyroid gland. And both the lobes of the thyroid gland are connected with this tissue. This connective tissue is called as the isthmus. So, isthmus connecting both the lobes of thyroid gland. Now, looking at the thyroid gland, it consists of two parts. It has follicles and it has the stromal tissue. Let us look at how these follicles look like. Where are these follicles present? What is the lining of these follicles? How these follicles are forming the hormone, thyroid hormone. Okay, I have just took this part of the lobe, I have just zoomed it. When you zoom this part of the lobe of the thyroid gland, can you see these round structures? These round structures are the follicles of the thyroid gland. Students, in animal tissue chapter, we have read about the different types of epithelium. Am I right? In different types of epithelium, we have read about the cuboidal epithelium. The cuboidal epithelium, which is having no modification on the plasma membrane, which is having a smooth surface. Actually, these follicles, as you can see, these follicles are also lined by some epithelium. This epithelium is called as the cuboidal epithelium. Getting my point? If I ask you that, that's how you can relate both the chapters, right? Animal tissues can be related with this chapter. You can be asked that follicles are lined by which type of epithelium. So you must be knowing that follicles are lined by the simple cuboidal epithelium. Got my point? Now also students, in between these follicles, you have certain other cells at the side. Those cells are C-shaped cells like this, which are present on the sides of these follicles. These C-shaped cells are called as, students, parafollicular cells. These C-shaped cells are called as parafollicular cells. So I'm writing it, this shape is C-shape. Okay. Also, can you see some space inside these follicles? This space is called as, students, colloid. Okay, the space inside the follicle where actually the thyroid hormones are stored and synthesized, that is called as colloid. What is this? Thyroglobulin. What I have written is a glycoprotein. There is a glycoprotein from where we are going to get the amino acid through which the hormone of thyroid is derived. I am repeating it again, students. The thyroglobulin is a glycoprotein. What is it? It's a glycoprotein found inside this colloid, over which we will get that amino acid, which is tyrosine. This amino acid, tyrosine, is actually required for the formation of T3 and T4 that we will discuss later, which is the thyroid hormones. That T3 and T4 having the tyrosine residue is coming from this thyroglobulin. Also, we know, students, that we require a lot of iodine for the formation of the thyroid hormone. Where is this iodine coming from? How this iodine is trapped? Iodine is surely coming from the diet, okay? So, we all must maintain a good amount of iodine in our diet. But that iodine, which is trapped as iodide ion, that iodine is trapped with the help of this epithelium. Once it is being trapped, going inside this and will form the T3 and T4. That is the thyroid hormone, maintaining all the functions that we will discuss. But what's the function of these parafollicular cells? Just like the follicular cells form the hormone T3 and T4, these parafollicular students are also very important because that is also going to form a hormone, thyrocalcitonin. I repeat again, it's thyrocalcitonin, or simply you can say calcitonin. Okay, we will see what is the function of thyrocalcitonin or calcitonin. Name, it can suggest you the function. Calcitonin is associated with calcium. So, moving on to the next part, we will discuss about the different hormones of the thyroid gland. Okay, students, now let's move to the different hormones of the thyroid gland. First of all, we will be talking about the hormones of the follicular cells. The hormones of the follicular cells are T3 and T4. Okay, T3 stands, I've written on the other side of the board, T3 stands for triiodothyronine and T4 stands for tetraiodothyronine. Okay, T3 stands for triiodothyronine and T4 stands for tetraiodothyronine. We will see why one is called as tri, why the other one is called as tetra. Okay, first let us focus how the T3 and T4 will be synthesized. So this is the structure of the follicular cell. Okay, this is a big follicle. This follicle, student, is lined by the simple cuboidal epithelium that we have already discussed. Okay, these are the epithelial cells. Which epithelial cells? The cuboidal cells. Okay, as I've told that for the formation of the thyroid hormone, students, we require large amount of iodine in our diet. And this iodine is going to be trapped with the help of the epithelial cells. Okay, once this iodine is trapped in the form of iodide, this iodine is going to combine with the amino acid tyrosine. But this iodine combining with the tyrosine, where is this tyrosine coming from? This entire space, students, we discussed that the space is called as the colloid. Okay, and this space is having a glycoprotein. It's having a glycoprotein which is thyroglobulin. What is it called? thyroglobulin. Now this thyroglobulin, this blue one which I have made, what I have shown with this small dots is the tyrosine residue. Okay, what I have shown is the tyrosine residues. Now, if on one tyrosine residue, that is a single iodine being trapped, that will ultimately form MIT. That will ultimately form MIT. Having one tyrosine and one iodine, monoiodotyrosine. Students, this is not thyrosine. This is what? Tyrosine. Why tyrosine? Because tyrosine amino acid has attached one iodine with itself. If I say in a single tyrosine, two iodine is being attached, this is single tyrosine, two iodine being attached, that is called as diiodotyrosine. So single iodine with the single tyrosine, monoiodotyrosine, MIT, and two iodine with one tyrosine forms diiodotyrosine, that is DIT. Ultimately, students, actually this is being cleaved, and this will be broken and separated. How this MIT and DIT will ultimately form the thyroid hormones T3 and T4, and what are the differences or comparative of these two hormones? Let us now focus on this. I have written on two sides. One is the hormone T3 and other is the hormone T4. First of all, just pay attention to the name. The name of T3 is triiodothyronine. The name of the T4 is tetraiodothyronine. Also, students, remember when I say thyroxine, thyroxine is the other name of T4. Okay, thyroxine is the other name of T4. Now, as the name clearly suggests, when I say T3, so 3. What is this 3? Actually, there will be 3 iodine. And how this T3 is formed? Once your one monoiodotyrosine is combining with one diiodotyrosine. When these two combine, overall you see 3 iodine in a T3 or tetraiodothyronine. But when I say the formation of thyroxine, actually one DIT combines with other DIT, overall you see 4 iodine. That is how your thyroxine is formed. Okay, this is an additional information regarding T3 and T4, that when you compare these two, T3 is usually produced in less amount. It is usually produced in less amount. But when you talk about their activity, students, the activity of the T3, it is more potent. What do you mean by potent? The potential, the activity. When you talk about T3, it is more potent, more active, but produced in less amount. But when you say T4 is produced in more amount but is less potent, less active than T3. Getting my point? T3 produced in less amount being more active. T4 produced in more amount but being less active. One more information is that your T4 gets converted into T3 sometimes at the site of the tissues, like when it reaches the liver, when it reaches the tissues, it is being converted into T3. So that's the comparative of the hormones of the follicular cells, which is T3 and T4. Next, we are going to look at the hormones which is secreted by the cells which were located at the sides of the follicles. That is the hormone of parafollicular cells. So now let us look at the hormone of the parafollicular cell. It produces the hormone which is termed as TCT, and TCT, students, stands for thyrocalcitonin. It stands for thyrocalcitonin, or simply we can say it stands for calcitonin. Okay, now the term itself has calci, that is related with maybe calcium. The role of thyrocalcitonin or calcitonin is very, very important, being hypocalcemic. Now students, we have already discussed the word meaning of hypo. Whenever you will use the term hypo, hypo means decreased. So when I say hypocalcemic hormone, that means calcemic related with calcium. Hypo means reduced. So it is going to cause a decreased level of blood calcium. So when it is reducing, when it is taking up all the blood calcium, where are you sending this calcium into? You are sending that calcium into the bones. So it is acting on the bones and deposit that calcium. Hence it is reducing the blood calcium level. Also I have written one more point. It maintains calcium homeostasis. So when I say calcium homeostasis, that means the concentration of calcium in your blood is regulated. Not only calcitonin, students, we will be discussing about the another gland, which is parathyroid gland. Parathyroid gland is very important in maintaining the calcium homeostasis along with calcitonin, right? One will increase the blood calcium level, that we are going to discuss about the parathormone, but this calcitonin decreases the blood calcium level, both helping in maintaining the calcium homeostasis. That's the function also I have mentioned about the calcitonin. Now we are going to see the different functions of T3 and T4. So I've written a lot of points, okay? Don't panic, it's very easy to remember the different functions of the thyroid hormones. First of all, we must have come across this term BMR a lot of times. BMR stands for basal metabolic rate. BMR stands for basal metabolic rate. Now how do you define, students, this basal metabolic rate? Basal metabolic rate is actually defined as the amount of calories that a person requires for the normal functioning of the body at rest, okay? So when we are at rest, at normal functioning of the body, for normal functioning of the body, the number of calories that is required, or we say the oxygen consumption of the cell that is required to produce ATP, that is defined as the BMR. The thyroid hormones T3 and T4 actually regulates this BMR, or we say it increases your BMR, it increases the oxygen consumption of the cell, it increases the ATP production. You know what, when the metabolism is increased, when there is a lot of metabolism, lot of oxygen consumption seen, your body temperature usually rises. So your thyroid hormone increases the BMR, it also rises the body temperature. I hope you are clear with these 2 points, you won't get confused. Now let us see the other functioning of the thyroid hormone. Again, this point, erythropoiesis. What is this erythropoiesis? Students, we have, we know the terms hematopoiesis. We know the term erythropoiesis. When we say hematopoiesis, hemato is related with the blood, and blood is related with all the blood cell formation. White blood cells, red blood cells. But when we specifically talk about erythropoiesis, erythro is related with the erythrocytes, that is the RBC. So when I am saying erythropoiesis is enhanced, that means thyroid hormone increases the RBC production. It also has some way, it enhances the activity of the other hormones, right? Just like it is enhancing the activity of epinephrine and norepinephrine. And above that I have written that it maintains the water and electrolyte balance. Students, since it enhances the activity of some other hormones, it is also responsible for maintaining your water and electrolyte balance. Also it enhances the activity of epinephrine and norepinephrine, which usually act as a vasoconstrictor, which also increases your heart rate. That is the next point. It increases the heart rate. Just like it is increasing the body temperature, it is increasing the heart rate. It helps in the tissue differentiation. Very important point. Students, the class amphibians we know, in amphibians, the conversion of the tadpole larva into the adult frog is under the influence of the thyroid hormone. So, very important hormone for the tissue differentiation. Also, I have written very important physical and mental growth. When I say very important, I mean to say the important function of the thyroid hormones, okay? I don't mean to say that it's very, very important for NEET and everything, okay? For NEET, definitely some points related with the thyroid hormones, like the BMR is very important, body temperature when you say is important, and they can relate the question of the thyroid hormones with the parathyroid when they will be talking about calcium homeostasis. Okay, when I say this point, physical and mental growth, if the thyroid hormone is anyway less, even during the pregnancy, I will be discussing about the disorders of the thyroid gland. There is a disorder when there is a decreased amount of calcium during the pregnancy that leads to the mental retardation. Students, it is very, very important to note that thyroid hormones is very important for the growth of the body, tissue growth, as well as the mental development. The last topic related with the thyroid gland is the different disorders. But before I begin with the disorder of the thyroid gland, you will understand it better if you know how the thyroid hormones are regulated, how the regulation of the release of the thyroid hormone is taking place. So first of all, let us look at the regulation, and I would want all of you to please remember this part, the regulation, while I would be discussing some of the disorders, because if you are not clear with this part, you won't be clear with the disorders. So pay attention to this. Very easy, because we have already covered this part. Students, we have the gland hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus produces a releasing hormone, which is TSHRH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone, releasing hormone, the target of which is anterior pituitary. Once it acts upon the anterior pituitary releases TSH, that we all know, thyroid stimulating hormone. This thyroid stimulating hormone acts upon the thyroid gland, and it is responsible for production of T3 and T4. That's quite easy. We have done it, right? I've written on top that the thyroid regulation is taking place by feedback mechanism. There is a feedback mechanism for the regulation of the thyroid hormone. What is this feedback? Once your thyroid hormones are released by the thyroid gland, formed by the thyroid gland, there are two possibilities. One possibility is the amount of thyroid hormone is less in your body. One possibility is that your amount of thyroid hormone is more. Is it clear? Two conditions are there. One is less amount of thyroid hormone. The other one is more amount of thyroid hormone. But students, anyway, there would be a regulation. It's not like that if thyroid hormone is more, it is continuously going to be more until and unless there is a problem, okay? So we'll see what is the regulation. Whenever there is a increased amount of thyroid hormone, it is going to give a negative feedback to anterior pituitary. Why do you need a negative feedback to anterior pituitary? Once the amount of thyroid hormone is more, you don't need thyroid hormone. How can you stop its formation? Once it acts upon anterior pituitary, it says negative feedback, stop forming me, stop forming me. Anterior pituitary will stop releasing TSH. Once there is no TSH, it won't act upon thyroid gland, and there would be a reduction in the thyroid hormone that is going to come back to normal. Exactly opposite thing occurs when the amount of T3 and T4 is less in your body. Once it is less in your body, it is going to act upon anterior pituitary, it is going to give a positive feedback, and once it gives a positive feedback to anterior pituitary, the TSH is released in more amount. When it is released in more amount, it is going to act more on thyroid gland, and it is going to cause the more formation of T3 and T4. Clear with the regulation? Now let us look at the disorders. I have divided this disorder into two parts. One is the hyposecretion, other is the hypersecretion. We already know that what is hyposecretion and what is hypersecretion. Once we say hypo, it means the amount of thyroid hormone is less. When I say hypersecretion, the amount of thyroid hormone is more. So I've written there are 4 diseases under hyposecretion. There's just one we are going to discuss under hypersecretion. So under hypersecretion, I have written exophthalmic goiter. That's exophthalmic goiter, or it is called as Graves' disease, or it is called as Basedow's disease. All right. Graves' disease, exophthalmic goiter, or Basedow's disease is a hyper condition. Under hypo, we have mentioned 4. Simple goiter, also known as endemic goiter, cretinism, myxedema, and Hashimoto's disease. Students, we are going to discuss the different conditions, different disorders in the next class. But before that, I want all of you to please go through this part properly so that you can understand the different disorders of the thyroid gland. So this is all for today. We are going to begin the next class next time. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.